Welcome to another episode of Explain Like I'm 5. For those who are new, I'll be going through some of the most popular questions and answers from the Explain Like I'm 5 subreddit. If you like these videos, please consider subscribing to support the channel. Now, let's get started with our first question. Explain like I'm 5. Why does sitting around doing nothing make people more tired, while exercising gives people more energy? Shouldn't it be the other way around? When you do nothing, your brain thinks, well, I guess we're done for today, time to stop making energy. When you work out, your brain thinks, oh man, we are doing stuff, I gotta make more energy. Sitting around doing nothing is similar to what we do when we're going to bed. Doing nothing is a great way to conserve energy. If you're sitting around doing nothing, it's fairly likely you're in a safe place to rest. Imagine the body is like a car. Once it gets going and starts to warm up, it takes time to cool down after it stops. Our heart rate remains elevated, respiration's elevated. We continue dissipating heat. Hormones are still flowing through your blood, etc. From an evolutionary perspective, it would make sense that we don't become tired from exercise. In a predator-prey situation, it would make very little sense for either the prey to be tired while escaping from danger, or the predator to get tired while chasing possible food. There's also the lymphatic system. It's everywhere in your body. Guess how it gets activated? Movement. It is a part of your immune system and it helps do a ton of stuff. Basically, moving is an ancient relationship with most living things. Survival. You move, you stay alive. Exercise releases hormones, endorphins, that make you feel happier and more energetic. It also gets the heart pumping and blood flowing, which is how your body gets what it needs to function. Sitting does the opposite. This is really interesting. I never thought about it that way before. It makes so much sense though. Our bodies are designed to conserve energy when we're sitting around, but they ramp up production when we're active. And it's crazy to think about how our evolutionary instincts play a role in this too. Our bodies are just trying to keep us alive. So, when you're sitting around, your brain basically thinks, okay, we don't need to do anything else today, time to conserve energy. But when you're working out, your brain goes, we're on the move, let's make more energy. And the lymphatic system, I had no idea that movement was so crucial for it to function. It's like our bodies are designed to reward us for being active. But it still seems kind of counterintuitive, doesn't it? I mean, shouldn't our bodies give us more energy when we're resting instead of when we're active? Why do you think that is? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's move right into our next Reddit post. Explain like I'm 5. How do CEOs from failing companies bail out with golden parachutes? Where does the money come from? CEOs may sign on to a company with a guarantee that they'll be compensated well even in the event of a company failure. Think of it this way. You believe you're very good at your job. You get a good and interesting job offer from Company A to have an important role, but that company is not doing so hot. You get another job offer from Company B, and it's doing great. Both companies will pay you the same amount. Company A is a huge risk to your career and finances. You could spend years taking a risk there and never see a compensation increase if you can't turn the ship around. Meanwhile, Company B is on the up and up. You're almost guaranteed that if you join, the company will continue to grow well and your career and personal brand will grow as well. So, how does Company A get you, a good CEO, to join? They eliminate a large part of the risk by offering you a deal that says if the company doesn't do well, you'll still be paid well because you took the risk of joining or sticking around. Now, you're much more likely to join Company A. Departure compensation is usually in their employment contract or inserted by the board as a retention agreement before a transaction, expansion, or closure occurs. Investors, lenders, acquiring companies, and employees each have different reasons for wanting executive continuity during tumultuous times. The funding can come from a number of places, including free cash, cash reserves, transaction proceeds, or debt notes. The company still has money. Even companies in the red have money. They just also have debts that exceed the amount of money they have made. But that doesn't mean they stop paying employee benefits. even if that is the severance package for the CEO. They keep trying to honor their obligations until they can't. This is a really interesting topic. It's crazy to think about CEOs from failing companies still being compensated well. It seems unfair to the employees and investors who are left with the consequences of the company's failure. I never realized that CEOs could negotiate for such lucrative deals, even when the company is struggling. It's like they have a safety net, while everyone else is left out to dry. I wonder if there are any limitations or regulations in place to prevent CEOs from taking advantage of these arrangements. And where does all that money come from? It's mind-boggling to think about how failing companies can still afford to pay their CEOs such hefty compensation packages. How does this impact the overall financial health of the company? I'd love to learn more about this. Let me know in the comments down below, and let's move right into our next Reddit post. Explain like I'm 5. Does mixing alcohols really make you sick? If it does, why? I've always heard things like, liquor before beer, you're in the clear, and that mixing brown and white can go bad, but why are you not supposed to mix alcohols? Edit, thank you for responding. I didn't think this many people were so passionate about mixing or not mixing drinks. There was a study done where, I think, 100 people were gathered in a hall, with all 100 people getting free drinks the entire night, with entertainment, etc. 50 of them were asked to choose one kind of alcohol they would stick with the entire night, only beer, only wine, or such. The other 50 people were free to do as they pleased. The result was that the people who mixed alcohol got worse hangovers. However, the real study was done at the bar, where they counted the beverages per person. Apparently, the people that mixed drinks drank more, because mixing it up is more interesting than drinking beer number 8 or 9. So it seems, the majority of it, at least, is that it makes you sick more to mix. Simply because it's easier, more interesting to drink more if you mix it up, than just keep chugging beers the entire night. The nights when you would mix drinks would usually be the nights when you drink a lot. People just tend to blame the mixing of drinks, when in reality they consumed in excess. There are a variety of issues, but really it's not about the alcohol mixing as much as it is. Alcohols are of different potencies and metabolized at a different rate. A shot of 80 proof liquor, for example, is about 1 12-ounce 5% beer, but that liquor is part of much less liquid. So over time, you might not realize how much you've downed, and if the beers you started with start getting into the bloodstream at the same time as the shots, you're going to feel it very suddenly. Because of this, it gets hard to track how much you had, and part of responsible drinking is knowing your limits and your pacing. Let's say over a 3-hour hockey game, I tend to have 4 16-ounce beers of about 5%. One for pre-skate, first period, second period, third period. I know how buzzed this gets me, and I know I can conduct myself like a human being. Now let's add a swig from my hip flask of 100 proof rum at the midpoint of each beer. I mean, it's 4 quick mouthfuls. It's less than a cup of liquid. Can't be that bad, right? Except I've just about doubled my alcohol intake over the same period. Significantly higher chance of total brain fog. Total brain fog leads to more drinking. Next thing I know, I'm hawking bad arena dog in a dice bar bathroom. The different types of liquors and colors of booze tend to mean different flavors, and eventually these don't mix well. Let's take liquor out of the situation and just focus on beers. Let's say over a night I drink the following. Bud Light Opener, Standard Yellow Pea Beer, Odell's 90 Shilling, Amber Ale, Chocolate Malts, kind of biscuity taste, Duclaw's Sweet Baby Jesus, Chocolate Peanut Butter Stout, dark brown color, tastes like a Reese's Cup kinda. Leinenkugel's Summer Shandy, yellowish color, lemony, summer vibe taste. Victory Dirt Wolf, double IPA, palish color, very earthy taste. Great Divide Yeti, Imperial Stout, like liquid dark bread with some caramel, near black in color. New Holland Dragon's Milk, dark brown stout that's aged in bourbon barrels. I have no idea how to describe the taste. Think about some of the flavors I've just described and think of eating those flavors. Bitter hops, Reese's Cups, biscuits, lemon, earthy bread, toffee, caramel, etc. For some people, This combination of food tastes would lead to a tummy ache. Booze can do the same. Sugar. Beers tend to have maltose, which is related to glucose and can spike your blood sugar. Liquors have their impact, which is too scientific for my brain and will explain like I'm 5, and they tend to be mixed in sugary combinations, rum and coke, fruit juices, etc. When you're mixing drinks, you can easily begin to spike your blood sugar. The sugar that can't be broken down and absorbed sits in your gut, ferments, becomes gas. That'll make you feel very sick. So in the end, it's not some specific chemical reaction, but how mixing properties of each begins to hide the damaging effects of large quantities of booze, huge rushes of sugar, and weird combinations of flavors that don't always end well. This is definitely an interesting topic. I've always wondered about the myths around mixing alcohols and whether it really affects your body differently. It seems like there are so many factors at play, from the different potencies and metabolization rates to the impact on your blood sugar. I had no idea that the flavors of different drinks could also have an effect on how your body reacts to them. And it's interesting to hear about the psychological aspect as well, how mixing drinks can lead to consuming more overall. I never thought about it that way. So based on what I've read, it seems like the issue with mixing alcohols is really multifaceted and doesn't have a simple answer. What have your experiences been with mixing different types of alcohol? Have you noticed any differences in how you feel the next day, or how much you end up drinking? I'm really curious to hear your perspective. Let me know in the comments down below, and let's move right into our next Reddit post. Explain like I'm 5. Since inflation pushes the price of items up every year, does that mean we're eventually going to get to a point where it's normal to pay like $20 for a carton of milk? Yes, in 1900, a half gallon of milk cost 13 cents, not $13, 13 cents. A pound of butter was twice that, at 26 cents, and a 10 pounds bag of potatoes cost 14 cents. You might think, wow, they must have been stuffed. But no, they also made a lot less money. In fact, these goods are generally cheaper today than they were back then, when taken as a percent of someone's weekly paycheck. Yes, most likely. If someone in 1913 asked, will inflation mean something that costs 10 cents now will someday cost $1? The answer would be yes. In fact, it's more likely to cost $3 today. Inflation might stop at some point, nothing goes on forever. And also the value of currencies can be reset. But there aren't any signs of that happening yet. This is definitely interesting. It's crazy to think about how much the cost of everyday items has changed over the years due to inflation. It's mind-blowing to imagine a time when a half gallon of milk only cost 13 cents. And the fact that these goods are actually cheaper today, when considered as a percentage of someone's weekly paycheck, is pretty surprising. But it makes sense that inflation would continue to push prices up over time. If you think about it, it's like a never-ending cycle of prices increasing. It's a little overwhelming to think about the potential of paying $20 for a carton of milk in the future, but it seems like a real possibility. It's also interesting to consider the idea that inflation might stop at some point, but based on the current trends, it doesn't seem likely. It's wild to think about how much things could continue to change in the future. What are your thoughts on how inflation has affected the cost of goods over time? Do you think we'll ever reach a point where prices stop increasing? Well, that's another episode of Explain Like I'm 5 in the books. I really appreciate all of you who made it this far into the video. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, it would really help the channel out a lot if you gave the video a thumbs up, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.